Everyone looks up to heroes as symbols of hope, courage, and strength. Omni-Man seems to check all those boxes. He's powerful, fast, and principled, but heroes aren't always what they appear to be. What if the hero we trusted the most was never on our side at all? A betrayal so huge that it doesn't just shock us, it changes everything we thought we knew. Is he a villain? What's going on here? That's what makes Omni-Man such a brilliant twist villain. To understand how Omni-Man was written, we need to go back and analyze what made him stand out. From the moment we meet him, Omni-Man is portrayed as everything you'd expect from a superhero. Immense strength, incredible speed, and a calming presence that towers over everyone. Essentially, he's the personification of justice. He doesn't just defeat villains, he completely obliterates them. Omni-Man is also seen as a symbol of safety, a superhero so powerful that no monster could challenge him. Even the Guardians of the Globe need a full team to defeat enemies, but Omni-Man fights alone. His unmatched strength allowed him to operate as a rogue hero, standing alongside the Guardians while not officially being part of their team. Despite his overwhelming power, Omni-Man wasn't just a cold brute. He had a human side. He was a family man. He was a devoted husband to his wife, a guiding father to Mark, and a protector of peace within the walls of his home. He wasn't a superhero who carried an air of superiority. He was just like us, a man with a family, which made him unexpectedly endearing, even for a superhero. Essentially, he was like Superman, but with a mustache. He looked every bit the part. A chiseled jawline, broad shoulders, draped in a flowing cape, and a commanding presence that radiated strength and righteousness, which made him all the more disarming. No one could have seen what was coming. This was when the first cracks began to show. When Mark finally got his powers after 17 years of waiting, it should have been a cause for celebration, right?
Guess who's finally getting his powers?
Are you sure?
Pretty sure.
Yet, when Mark told Omni-Man, he didn't seem happy at all. He looked distraught. No one could have guessed what was going through his mind. Maybe he was afraid of pushing Mark too hard or doubting his ability to mentor his own son. But deep down, we all know there was only one question running through his head. Should he tell Mark the truth? Spoiler! He did, but not by choice. Their father-son relationship didn't crack until much later in the series, when the big twist was revealed. Up until that point, they enjoyed a relatively normal relationship. Omni-Man taught Mark how to fight, something Mark had dreamed of for the past 17 years. Now it was his time to shine.
Use your whole body. You can punch with your arm, but if you punch with your shoulder, your hips, and your legs as well...
But being a good superhero takes more than just passion. It requires raw strength and the intelligence to develop strategies that maximize one's power. Other than fighting, one has to learn the art of mobility. Omni-Man might have the key to flight, but none of this would matter if he didn't pass down the most important trait of all: the right mindset. It all seemed like a typical superhero progression. The son gains powers and the dad is there to teach him. But when we take a closer look at Omni-Man's actions, we realize the secrets may have been hiding in plain sight. Mark wasn't just any superhero. He was a Viltrumite. Omni-Man had been dropping hints all along. The facade was starting to crack. Omni-Man was playing the long game, following a plan that Viltrum had set for him. We started to see his frustration while training Mark. Omni-Man was disappointed in his son's talents. He also seemed uneasy around the other heroes, not out of respect, but because he didn't view them as equals. While the Guardians of the Globe fought together, Omni-Man was always slightly apart, as if he was just tolerating them. There was nothing overtly villainous about it, until the big twist hit. The massacre. The mask dropped, and Omni-Man did it without any dramatic speech. It was cold, calculated murder. efficient, and emotionless. The lack of hesitation forced us to question everything we believed about Omni-Man. Was he being controlled? Was he blackmailed? How could the symbol of strength destroy the strongest team humanity had to offer? Had he really turned into a villain? But there was only one question left. Why was he doing this? It took a whole season before he started to share the truth with Mark. Omni-Man's home planet, Viltrum, wasn't interested in helping lesser developed worlds. The Viltrumites were conquerors. After facing too many losses trying to brute force their way to world domination, they devised a strategy to conquer with fewer casualties. The plan was to send a Viltrumite to specific planets to gather intelligence and weaken them for eventual takeover, all while keeping their own forces in check. Omni-Man wasn't the considerate family man he had made himself out to be. His mission wasn't about protecting Earth. It was about ensuring Earth was weak enough for Viltrum to take over. When the Guardians of the Globe began to pose a potential threat, that's when Omni-Man took action and eliminated them. Everything he did wasn't about protecting Earth. It was for Viltrum. He wasn't just a rogue hero who wanted to do good without affiliating with the Guardians. Omni-Man had his reasons for staying apart from them. The fatherly smiles and guidance he showed were all part of his plan. None of it was about helping people. It was all about fulfilling his duty as a Viltrumite. Even though he enjoyed his time on Earth, when duty called, he abandoned everything he had built. He treated his life on Earth like a vacation. And when it was time to return to his true purpose, he didn't hesitate. Operating on a completely different moral code than humans, Omni-Man was a conqueror. He was logical, calm, and 100% convinced that he was always right. He thought of himself as the perfect Viltrumite, strong, emotionless, and efficient. Yet, when he spoke about Mark's mother as if she were just a pet to him, there was no turning back. Mark could no longer accept him. It wasn't just about being a hero anymore. Mark was fighting for his humanity. Every time he resisted, Omni-Man hit him harder, teaching him a harsh lesson. Humanity is weak, and unless Mark embraced his Viltrumite nature, he would never be strong enough to protect anyone. This moment broke Omni-Man. For the first time, he began to question the Viltrumites' supposed perfection. If they were supposed to be the ultimate conquerors, why was Omni-Man feeling emotions? He wasn't the calm, calculated Viltrumite anymore. He was a human who could feel emotions, and that made him a failure in the eyes of his people. But in that moment, he realized that maybe he wasn't as perfect as he had always believed. Omni-Man's time on Earth made him question everything about himself. He may have been a Viltrumite, but he was starting to care, starting to feel. His decision to leave Earth with tears in his eyes was a moment of internal conflict he had never faced before. The complexities of Omni-Man's character, a loving father and a cold conqueror, create a terrifying twist villain. His character is a mix of charm and cruelty, making him a truly memorable villain. Omni-Man's story teaches us how to build a villain who isn't just evil for the sake of it, but one who believes he is doing the right thing. It's not just about conquering Earth for him. It's about bringing what he believes is a better future. But what if we gave Omni-Man another twist? What if, after everything, he began his path to redemption? Unlike other villains, Omni-Man isn't your typical, all-powerful alien savior. He started as the ideal hero, only to reveal himself as a conqueror in disguise. That's where the real power of the twist lies. But what if, in the end, Omni-Man finally chose a different path? As Omni-Man takes off into the distance at the conclusion, it feels like he's abandoning more than just his mission. He's abandoning the emotional baggage that he's been carrying along with it. The tears that are shed are not only for the world itself, but for the family that he's leaving behind. Omni-Man finally reveals vulnerability, and in that instant we know that even the most powerful and heartless villains are not above emotion. Omni-Man's odyssey is one of turmoil, from hero to corrupted conqueror, and then to tormented father. It's one of betrayal, moral gray area, and the conflict between love and duty. He's the type of character who makes us consider the validity of right and wrong, and if the exercise of power is worthwhile, if it comes with the price of humanity. His corrupted depravity is not merely about conquering worlds. It's conquering his own feelings, his conviction, and his love of something he never set out to love. What is so remarkable about Omni-Man is how his story makes us question ourselves as viewers. We are compelled to ask ourselves if he is actually an evil character or merely the product of his environment and upbringing. Can we judge someone who genuinely believes that what he is doing is right if his actions are brutal and destructive? This gray area when it comes to morals makes Omni-Man an equally compelling and irresistible character to watch. He is not just an evil character, but rather a tragic character who is stuck between doing what he must and the love he has come to develop with his family. As Omni-Man's story progresses, his character is revealed to not be one-dimensional by any means. He is a villain with layers, and these layers are precisely what make him so memorable. His journey is not merely about his ruin, it's about the inner conflict he experiences and the decisions he makes in the process. Omni-Man ultimately stands as a testament to the fact that villains are not created. They are made, and sometimes the scariest villains are those who think that they are the hero in their own narrative. Omni-Man's journey may not be through just yet, but his legacy among the greatest twist villains in contemporary storytelling is set in stone. And who knows, perhaps, just perhaps, he is on the way to redemption. As Omni-Man's story progresses, the struggle within him is more than merely an ideological war between duty and his newfound human attachments. What if there's an added level to his inner struggle, a level related to an overwhelming feeling of personal failure? Omni-Man grew up on Viltrumite principles, survival of the strongest, power being paramount, and emotion being the equivalent of being soft. What if, in spite of it all, Omni-Man has begun to believe that he has failed the Viltrumite cause, not merely on Earth itself, but in his very nature? He is regarded as the symbol of power, and when he catches a glimpse of his son, Mark, there is an instant recognition. Mark is the embodiment of all that Omni-Man rejected. The attachments, the humanity, and the sympathy that come with them. The increased emotional connection with the son that Omni-Man initially tried to stomp out starts to erode the foundations on which the emotionless Viltrumite he worked so hard to be built himself. His greatest vulnerability is this: he will never be able to fully shed the humanity he has come to value. Omni-Man's power, ironically, is in effect his biggest liability. He hurts not just from the failure of his mission, but from realizing he may never have been strong to begin with, not through lack of physical strength, but because he cannot reproduce the strength that resides in togetherness with others. He perceived the world to be one in which he could conquer and be strong, and an encounter with human nature through Mark shatters his clear definition, questioning all of his set principles. What if Omni-Man truly does begin to question his perfection to be a Viltrumite? After all, strong as he once was, he could not be completely faultless, could not be the ideal he was taught to be. His feelings, which he has long thought to be a vulnerability, begin to surface more and with more despair. He understands that with this fight to dominate the galaxies under his control, he does not possess what makes humans strong, the ability to feel and connect with others. And sooner or later, there comes the moment when Omni-Man starts questioning his people. Does a world governed by harshness and brutalism really benefit everyone? As he comes to deal with the reality of human emotion and affection, he realizes that these aspects of human nature are as powerful as any physical effect. Love, affection, and self-sacrifice, these human qualities that he has dismissed so long, begin to shine like beacons and break down his past attitudes. And it is the comics that reveal it best. You should read them if you are interested in what becomes of Omni-Man towards the conclusion of the 3rd season. Through this means, Omni-Man is drawn into a far greater conflict. One not only personal, but one he has with his people. Not only does he reject his mission, he starts to question the nature of power itself. And this makes him come to the one choice that will make him more man than he could ever have thought to be. He becomes one who will turn away from Destroyer and move towards Creator, albeit on his own terms. As Invincible progresses, we come to see that Omni-Man is far from one-dimensional villainy. He's multidimensional, complicated, and frankly, that's what makes him so memorable. His tale is not merely one of chaos and ruin, it's one of a man in the midst of brutal internal conflict, struggling to reconcile the beliefs he grew up with, and with feelings he never imagined he'd experience. Omni-Man teaches us something significant. Sometimes villains are created, and not born. And the most terrifying ones? They're the ones who still think they're the hero in their own story. Now, Omni-Man's story isn't finished. However, let's be real. He's already solidified himself as one of the great twist villains in contemporary narrative. And perhaps, just perhaps, redemption is not entirely out of the question for him. As his narrative progresses, it becomes evident that Omni-Man's conflict is not merely about loyalty to Viltrumite Empire and the life that he has created on Earth. There is another level, one that runs deeper, an evolving feeling of personal failure. He was brought up on Viltrumite principles, survival of the strong, power being paramount, feelings being a vulnerability. But what if Omni-Man secretly believes he has not only failed Earth, but the very purpose he was trained to fulfill? As he looks into his son Mark, he does not merely see potential. He sees something monstrous. In Mark, he beholds all that Omni-Man was conditioned to reject: compassion, connection, humanity. And that bond between the two men, one that Omni-Man worked so hard to destroy, gradually seeps past the walls he had erected. His biggest weakness is not physical, it's emotional. Despite his struggle to fight it off, Omni-Man cannot shake the humanity to which he has grown attached. And the kicker? He begins to see that despite all his physical power, he is missing something far greater. The power that comes from connection, from empathy, from love. That inner, unbreakable human power that cannot be defeated by fists. The more he comes to feel, the more he questions all that he ever believed. Was the Viltrum way, ruling by power, ever the right way? Must a society founded on brutality and fear be considered strong? Or does being strong consist of vulnerability, compassion, and sacrifice? This conflict comes to life so well in the comics. And if you're wondering what becomes of Omni-Man following Invincible Season 3, you'll certainly want to read them. Ultimately, Omni-Man's struggle becomes greater than himself. Not only does he go against one mission, he questions the belief system of an entire empire. He begins to ask the one question that makes all the difference. What if being strong means not to crush others, but to elevate them? And perhaps, just perhaps, Omni-Man's destiny is no longer one of destruction, but one of creation, redemption, and finally being something more than just a soldier. Finally, being a man. If you liked the video, please subscribe and put a like. Suggest your ideas in the comments and I may realize them. Good luck to everyone.